They can stay here with us, can't they, Mom?
They won't be safe here, baby.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. So, if you guys follow the channel, you know I was pretty disappointed in Secret Invasion because this show had so much potential. It had all the ingredients for what could have been one of the MCU's best stories yet out of the TV and movies. And it could have had one of the greatest all-time Marvel big bads, right up there with Killmonger, Loki, and Thanos. Because if you scratch just a little under the surface, it turns out that Secret Invasion's villain, Gravik, was right.
What? He was right?
Yeah, man, read the thumbnails, buddy. If the show had tried a little harder to show Gravik's motivation and fleshed him out just a little bit more, it could have turned everything around for this series and made Secret Invasion the show that it should have been. So today I'm going to talk about why Gravik was right, why his big plan was ultimately a great idea, not just for the Skrulls, but for all of mankind. And a lot of this comes down to Earth's place in the MCU moving forward, especially as we move into Phase 5 and beyond. Both Gravik's motivation and his endgame tie into the role Planet Earth plays in the MCU and how that role needs to evolve into something new, something totally different from what we've seen before. A brave new world. But let's rewind a bit first and just quickly recap Gravik's whole deal. In Captain Marvel, Carol and Nick Fury promised the Skrull refugee leader Thanos that they would help him find his people a planet.
I'll help you find a home. Finish what Marvel started.
The Skrulls had no homeland anymore after escaping the Kree and were just looking for somewhere in the galaxy where they could safely raise their families. In the meantime, Fury used Thanos and other Skrulls as part of his spy network. Their shape-shifting ability obviously was a huge advantage, and it helped Fury work his way up to becoming the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, years went by, and Fury never found the Skrulls a new planet. After the blip, Fury effed off to outer space. So Thanos said the hell with it and told all the Skrull refugees to just come on to Earth. Now Gravik was one of the Skrulls that Fury used as an agent. Disgusted with how Fury turned his back on the Skrull cause, he formed a resistance based out of an old Russian nuclear facility. This is where he planned the Secret Invasion. By replacing high-ranking officials across human society, Gravik hoped to initiate World War III between Russia and the United States. Once humanity was wiped out, the Skrulls could just claim Earth as their home planet. And honestly, Gravik had every right to be angry at Fury, like really angry.
He was furious.
And also, just one second.
Hey, get off your phone. What are you doing on your phone?
Sorry, I was playing Bloodline Heroes of Lythis, or the sponsor of this video, that has the most unique gameplay I have ever played. Right now, for example, I am crossbreeding a Dragonborn and a Demigod to make a new heir to my house. So, Bloodline Heroes of Lythis is a game that's free to play, and you can use the download link in the description or scan this QR code. So, like a lot of fantasy stories, Bloodline features different races, elves, demons, orcs, dwarves, and several others. But what makes this game so unique is that you can marry these bloodlines together to create a new hybrid species with traits and powers from both sides of the family. And to keep the gameplay fresh, they even introduce new bloodlines and abilities every 2 weeks, like their newest bloodline, Tide Raisers, who are demigods from the ocean. The game has incredible visuals with full 3D graphics. And if you play the Guild Championships, you can get unique hybrid champions, the Bloodcraft Legends. But my favorite part of the game is that you get to build your kingdom with strategy and building an economy. It creates a balanced world with interesting storylines, alliances, and different characters like the companions. So you can download the game for free on both Android and iOS with this QR code, and you'll get a special starter pack worth $20, including 100,000 gold, 100 diamonds, and 1 summoning crystal. Believe me, you'll be glad you have that one. And the first 30 players who leave their in-game account ID and username in the first pinned comment section below will receive a free legendary female succubus champion, the Luxuriant, one of the best mages you can possibly carry in the game. So use our link to download Bloodline Heroes of Lythis today. Now back to Gravik. So what Fury did to the Skrulls was pretty awful. It's one thing to ask them to be patient while you find them a new homeworld, even ask them to hide their identities. But by having them work as spies, it makes giving the Skrulls sanctuary less altruistic and more transactional. I mean, we've had actual refugee crises in the real world since pretty much the dawn of civilization. We're having them right now. I mean, can you imagine taking refugees from a war-torn country or a climate disaster and saying, okay, you can stay here, but you have to become spies and assassins for us, and then asking them to hide their entire identity and culture on top of all of that? Now, I'm sure some people would be down to help like that, but it puts them in a very awkward position. Gravik could have said no to Fury when he asked him to murder a man with a family on his very first mission. Now, this assassination mission clearly affected Gravik because the human face that Gravik wears, the face of Kingsley Ben-Adir, is the face of that man he killed. But he was grateful to Fury, looked up to him even, and wanted to impress him.
I wanted to give everything to impress my hero. You know, the one who promised us a home.
And he's literally stranded on an alien planet. His family's dead. You really don't want to risk losing what little you have left by pissing off Nick Fury.
You sent Nick Fury to voicemail?
Yeah.
You don't send Nick Fury to voicemail.
Of course Gravik was disillusioned with Fury. Of course he was angry at him. If I were in his shoes, I'd probably hate him too. And what really must have been salt in the wound for Gravik and the other Skrulls is seeing how Earth treated them compared to another group of alien refugees without a planet, the Asgardians. Remember New Asgard? It was formed sometime between the snap and the blip as a sanctuary for the few surviving Asgardians. After Ragnarok and the destruction of Asgard, Thor headed toward Earth with the few remaining survivors. Thanos killed a bunch of them, then snapped away half the rest. The Asgardians were dropping quicker than old white guys in a game of Guess Who. Whoever was left was allowed to found an autonomous city-state in Norway. Now, by the time this happened, the people of Earth were well aware that aliens existed. They didn't need congressional hearings where government insiders would show blurry footage of UFOs and make a bunch of crazy claims without evidence. A giant robot leveled a town in New Mexico in front of a whole bunch of witnesses. And that was before New York was invaded by a bunch of alien soldiers and robot dragons. Dark elves dropped a spaceship on London. And after the snap, humans pretty much could accept any crazy truth about what's really going on in the universe. Once a giant purple man snaps away half your family, nothing's gonna surprise you anymore. And that's why it was easy for the Asgardians to not only settle on Earth, but to become a bona fide tourist attraction. So why should it be any different for the Skrulls? They'd been here since the 90s. They aided the US government under Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. There is no reason why they shouldn't have been given the same deal as the Asgardians. Surely this played into Gravik's motivation too. The main difference between Asgardians and the Skrulls is that they look different. The Asgardians look human. The Skrulls, in their natural state, look like green aliens. There is a whole undercurrent in Secret Invasion about the legacy of racism in this country. Both Fury and Rhodey bring it up more than once.
Men who look like us don't get promoted because of who our daddies know.
The show really should have leaned more into this and shown how the Skrulls were treated poorly in part because of how they looked. If they were Asgardian, how much more likely would the people of Earth accepted them and allowed them to integrate into their society?
Would you have loved me if I'd never changed? If I'd been my true self?
Not only is this the core of Gravik's motivation, but it's really at the root of his entire plan. Because I don't think that Gravik was just trying to wipe out humankind with a nuclear war. I think he had a much larger vision that we never got to see. I think Gravik was actually trying to turn Earth into a new world order. A brave new world. And what I mean by that is a multi-species intergalactic society. I think Gravik was trying to pull Earth, kicking and screaming, into the next logical step in its evolution. To no longer be some isolated backwater planet filled with the race of humans ignorant to how the rest of the universe works, but instead to make Earth a key member of an intergalactic civilization, similar to the Galactic Republic in Star Wars Federation, or actually more accurately, the Federation in Star Trek. After all, what is the Federation? It's basically a giant United Nations, but for the whole galaxy. The Earth became part of the Federation after finding out that aliens existed, and then allied themselves with like-minded species. In fact, Earth is one of the founding members of the Federation. So in the MCU, now that humans know that all sorts of aliens exist, there is no reason why the Earth of the MCU can't do the same thing. Form an alliance with similar progressive societies, like the Nova Empire. After all, they have shared interests, like preventing another Thanos from ever doing major harm to the galaxy again. There is no reason Earth shouldn't be doing this. The same way the UN formed out of the ashes of World War II, the blip was this major, devastating cosmic event. The time is ripe for a major change. Earth already has a giant space station, access to faster-than-light travel, and allies across space, like Captain Marvel and the Guardians of the Galaxy. The regular people of Earth may be a little behind in technology, but at this point, there's really no reason they should be. Wakandan and Stark tech could be made accessible to everyone, plus whatever tech the Avengers learned from Rocket, Gamora, Carol Danvers, and many others. Plus, Earth is not some random backwater planet. It clearly has a special place in the galaxy. It was home to more than one Infinity Stone, and it's where the snap happened. And most importantly, it was a team of mostly Earthlings that managed to save the entire universe from Thanos. That's exactly why the Eternals fought so hard to keep the planet from cracking like a space egg, as they had originally planned. Just like in Star Trek, Earth shouldn't just be a member of the Federation, it should be the damn capital of it. Or at the very least, it can serve as a peacekeeper in the same way that Odin's Asgard did before it fell. Earth should be a multi-species, multicultural, intergalactic hub. The universe would be stronger and safer for it. In the same way that NATO's support is helping Ukraine defend itself from Russia's invasion, an Earth-based galactic alliance could be a major force for good that could rein in other superpowers. You know, powers like the Kree. And that is exactly what Gravik was thinking. He was not trying to destroy Earth. He was trying to force it into this role, so that what happened to his family and his people would never happen again.
But how is instigating nuclear war going to force Earth into forming a galactic league of space nations?
Because, Doug, there was never going to be a nuclear war. That was just a feint that was part of Gravik's plan. Now sure, in real life, his false flag operation would almost certainly bring us to the brink of nuclear holocaust. At this point, someone could sneeze too loud and we'd probably all blow each other up. We do live in horrifying times.
I get it. We're all a little on edge here.
The Earth of the MCU is different. It has more advanced technology. It has the Avengers, or superheroes at least. I'm convinced a nuclear war would be averted at the last minute, especially if Gravik has secretly placed Skrulls in positions of power on both sides. So I think instead of war, Gravik was banking on the threat of war bringing the Earth together, the same way Ozymandias faked an alien invasion in The Watchmen to end the Cold War. Gravik's plan was kind of a one step backward, two steps forward approach. First, unite the planet through violence, then institute a policy shift toward peace, especially if he has his body snatcher spies in the right places to fast track this action. Then, once Earth is united as a single planetary alliance, it could do the work of bringing together the galaxy. In another video, we even talked about where Earth could place its global capital, like Wakanda or New Asgard. Earth can be a true melting pot for all alien species. The Skrulls could then come out of hiding once and for all and live among humans in their natural green state. And this is why Gravik's true plan was to become a Super Skrull, to make other Skrulls into Super Skrulls. He wanted the Super Skrulls to form the next Avengers and to protect the Earth. Now, of course, like most Marvel villains, Gravik lost. All his plans went out the window when he was betrayed by Gaia and bested by Nick Fury. If Gravik did anything wrong, it was not being completely open about his long-term plans. He probably thought that war would make it easier to rally followers and that his more ambitious plan would seem too far-fetched to gain any traction. In a way, though, he did strengthen the resolve of Earth. Nuclear war never happened, as was his plan, but without Gravik and his Skrull plans to guide what happens next, instead of Earth becoming a haven for aliens, it's become the opposite, a xenophobic, closed-minded society. Instead of a Gravik-influenced American president welcoming new aliens, we have a misguided one vowing to kill them all on sight.
And we will kill every last one of you.
And the repercussions for this are going to ripple out. It's almost certain that this new American mindset will lead to General Ross's rise to power and the formation of the Thunderbolts. Instead of a peaceful government like Star Trek's Federation, we might even get the Mirror Universe version, where Earth becomes a powerful, human-centric empire hostile to the rest of the galaxy. Now, we've talked about this in other videos, but I think that Captain America 4 will be rooted in this conflict. Both its original title, New World Order, and its new title, Brave New World, hint at a united One Earth government. That's why I'm hopeful that Gravik's endgame eventually does play out, just not the way he planned. There are still good people in the MCU who strive for peace and unity, you know, like the current Captain America, Sam Wilson. Just as Steve Rogers rebelled against a fascist takeover in the Winter Soldier, Wilson could stand up to President Ritson's xenophobic anti-alien government. Sam can show that he is the moral center of the new Avengers. Just as the US ended its isolationist policy to help other democracies fight World War I, Earth can still move on from President Ritson's anti-alien agenda and join a galactic alliance of peaceful alien civilizations.
Yeah, this is getting all weird. The MCU is no longer relatable anymore.
Sure, this is a far cry from the grounded world of the original Iron Man, which felt like it could take place in the real world. But a lot has happened in the MCU since then, and it definitely doesn't resemble the real world anymore, especially after the blip.
Did I tell you how my wife pretended to blip out?
Future movies will take us even deeper into this comic book fantasy world. Earth should be a larger-than-life space capital, where humans, aliens, robots, mutants, monsters, and more can coexist. They'll need to if they're to face bigger threats like ever before, like Kang or Galactus. So Gravik was right. The Skrulls should be welcomed with open arms, and Fury was wrong. He should have fought harder for his people to accept the Skrulls, rather than find them another planet.
Fury! Managed to screw things up again?
If Fury had shared his knowledge about the Skrulls early on, geniuses like Tony Stark and Bruce Banner could have invented things like Skrull detectors by now. People would have found a way to make this work for Skrulls and humans to coexist. Maria Hill and Talos would still be alive. And maybe, with Skrulls openly allied with the Avengers, Thanos would have never been successful in Wakanda. Fury wouldn't have needed to make the Skrulls help as some kind of twisted repayment for letting them stay on Earth. If the Skrulls were adopted by Earth, they'd want to defend the planet without being asked. They'd want to protect their home. Both Gravik and Fury should have trusted their allies and been completely transparent with them. Just as Skrulls can hide in plain sight, these two characters hid their secrets. Now, look, it's the MCU. I'm sure the good guys will eventually win, like they always do. But there would be a lot less collateral damage if Gravik and Fury hadn't made these fatal errors. Now, it's too late for Gravik, and his mistakes will have major consequences for the MCU. But hopefully, Nick Fury learned a few lessons, and Secret Invasion was not a total waste. Maybe Earth will still lead the galaxy forward into a brave new world. Well, guys, what do you think? Was Gravik right? What other villains do you think were right? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.